Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. The last time we worked on this 1987 Kawasaki Bayou 300cc two-wheel drive, we got it to fire up on starting fluid. The carburetor it had on it was a really cheap Mikuni constant velocity style clone, and you guys know I don't like that so much. But you guys also know I love, this is a PZ27, there you go, it's made by Kawasaki. Anyway, you buy these on eBay, PZ27, PZ30, PZ30 has a little bigger bore, right, anywhere, somewhere around 15-20 bucks, right, once again, eBay, PZ27, and take your choice. Some of them come with hoses and so forth, some don't. So that's where the carb came from. The cable, ATV, throttle, lever, and cable, and typically these go for about 10 bucks. You cannot use the old throttle on that, and the reason why is because the eyelet is too big, right? It won't fit on the slide, so you got to kind of cob your way into one of those. And I just want to let you know they really glued the heck out of the hand grips. So what I'm doing is I am hacking this PZ27 on here. Then with the CDI box, I want to fire this thing up and see if it runs. It's always interesting when you start this, right? You begin seeing things like the exhaust system has this massive hole in it, and the drive shaft boot is part of it's missing. I'm not sure what that hose clamp is doing for a living. So anyway, and once again the wiring. I guess a mouse had dinner. By the way, should you see something like that, make sure you disconnect all the wires from the engine. Otherwise, you can start it up. Your alternator starts trying to push power into a short circuit, and you cook your stator coils. The stator coils used for charging. So anyway, I'm going to continue to put this together. You guys could see I have my handy dandy flange right here. I'm just going to plug that right into the hole, tighten it down, get some gas into it, and we'll see if we can't get this puppy running halfway decent. So you guys remember how we almost smoked that 200S motor by not checking the oil? And I'm thinking to myself, I know there's oil in there. I know there's oil in there. But let me just double check before I start this on the carburetor. So anyway, there's the oil filled plug. And on Kawasaki, it's very common they have a fill glass. And if you take a look at that, you can see I'm like low on oil. Right? I think you guys can see that. Yep. So, you know what? You want to check the oil all the time. Even if you checked it yesterday, if you're going to start it up, especially to the point where you're going to put a carburetor on it and run it for real, actually, no matter what, before you start an engine, check the oil. Because I would have put a $50 bill down saying that, oh yeah, this thing is full. As a matter of fact, I remember it being over full. Well, obviously my memory isn't what it used to be. So we know the oil's good. I just filled that up, put the cap back on, smashed the carburetor on, put gas in it, throttle, got my portable CDI box there. It's all hooked up. And now it's just a matter of putting the starter on it, engaging the choke, and see if we can't get this thing to fire up. I'm also, and I want you to watch, that's why I'm mentioning this, I'm also going to pop it into gear, and we're going to see if I can't creep it forward a little bit without running into anything important. So let me set the camera up, get everything else in final place, and see if we can't make this thing start and move a little bit. Okay, here we go. So turn on the portable CDI box, We got gas to the carburetor. The compression release is released. We have half choke, right, and let's see if we can't get it to start up. Okay, so it started, it ran, and it moved. So now it's decision time. What the heck do I do with this rig? I cannot be starting it with a drill like that, right? That's just not recommended behavior. And even when I was popping it into gear, right, I was quite aware of where my fingers were. I was thinking, boy, if I imagine you catch your finger right there, you can really make quite the mess. So I really have to get a starter on this thing. And I have to say, I did read the comments, and one of my subscribers mentioned, I just happen to have a Bayou starter here, that the starter has a gear that goes on it right here, and he mentioned that perhaps my problem was the gear popped off. Well, if it's that easy, that's great. I'm just noticing, by the way, what holds this gear on, right? That doesn't look like it takes a set screw. No, it doesn't take a set screw. So if that's the case, probably what I'll do is I'll pop a little tack on here, maybe with the welder. I don't know. For the person who told me the sprocket likes to fall off, I guess the question I gotta ask is, how does it stay on? Is it a matter of proximity? And by that I mean everything's kind of squeezed together, right? And when you squeeze everything together, you put the cover on, right? So now the cover holds that sprocket on. So that's the one thing I gotta check. Generally speaking, what do I think of this rig? And if I was going to go out and buy another one, I probably would not buy another Bayou, particularly not another old Bayou. I mean, if the price comes up and I could get it for under $100, obviously I'm going to own it, right? I'm going to buy it because that's just what I do. But generally speaking, for me, what do I think of this? This is a very heavy machine. It's built like a tank. It would be perfect for yard work, and I mean like heavy yard work. The thing is built really crazy solid. So that's, if I were buying one, or if I'm fixing this one up, that's what you gotta have in mind. By the way, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. This thing seems to have an opened and closed differential. You can have the wheels locked together, or you can go separate, right? You know, typical like car differential where the wheels spin independently. Because I was looking at the brakes, the way they have the cable brakes here, right? I'm looking at that. I'm going, why the heck would you need a brake for each back tire, right? You're on an axle. Then I went over here and I noticed this guy for locking and unlocking the differential. I'm not sure if that works or not. By the way, really cool option for trails because your rear end isn't locked together, so you could really, especially with a machine this heavy, so you could really wind yourself around trees without plowing the front end. So that's interesting and handy. Make it a little easier, given its weight, to manage to get around objects. By the way, the locking differential, I think that means this is an older one, because Kawasaki made all three-wheelers like that also. So back to it. Now what am I going to do with this thing? If I could get the electric starter sorted out, and if I could get I either got to cover that up or do something else for it. I'm a little concerned about the crank bolt. When you start this thing up, right, when I'm starting this up, I don't know if you can see the rotation of that. It is counterclockwise, right? When you pull the recoil, you're turning it counterclockwise. And I've turned it over on this thing, with this thing, quite a few times in high and low. And I would have thought the crank nut would have spun out, would have unwound itself, because that's what I'm using to turn it over. So I have to admit, I'm wondering if I'm gonna be able to get that crank nut out and get that bolt off, unless it's backwards. And I guess I'm gonna have to check that. But I'm really kind of surprised it hasn't spun itself out yet. Anyway, assuming I could get the electric starter going, I could clean this up easy enough, get a regular air filter, a single stage onto it. The engine seems to be fine right now that it's full of oil. You guys could see it's not smoking like crazy. You know, for a yard rat, this would be a real good machine. I believe I have the seat to it. If not, once again, it's a yard rat. One could put a tractor seat on it or whatever. It could just be a rock solid alternating vehicle to use around the house, you know, the trailer puller and, you know, and so forth. But it's heavy. If you think you're gonna stand it up or you know, and stick it in the corner, it's heavy. This, as you go to lift this front end up, it's a heavy machine. Most of these three-wheelers maybe weigh 300 pounds. A TRX 200 SX, you know, 350, you know, they're not all that heavy. This is probably between 400 and 500 pound machine. It is heavy. So anyway, I anticipate 300 cc's. It's going to be strong. It'll be fast enough. It's going to ride nice. That's the one good thing about being heavy. But it's a bruiser. It's a bruiser for sure. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Once again, I couldn't find the VIN number. I looked and looked and looked. So, and I see some area over there where somebody might have buffed it off. And I see some area over here where somebody might have buffed it off. So in both cases, I'm not finding a VIN number. Given that it's got the open and closed rear end, I'm thinking it's an early one. 86, 87, 88. I think 88 up is a new model. So I think it's an 86 or an 87, or maybe just an 87. If anybody has any info on this thing, I would love, just do me a favor, write it in. I'd appreciate it. And in the meantime, I want to thank you all for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember, feet down, heads up. And get out there and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.